Okay. Uh, these five pillars we talked about in the earlier slides: the security, reliability, performance efficiency, cost optimization, operation excellence. Security being a very major constraint to the majority of the business, as I mentioned earlier. So it has been colored out in a different out of all these particular five systems, which is very much key, pillar for AWS architecture framework. So let's see what is there in the security architecture. So this is, um, I think this is a typical description of it. But if you talk about security, as I mentioned, the protection of the information and how the system's been organized in the cloud, what kind of a security is being provided, what is the kind of authentication is being given to it when somebody wants to access something which is there in the cloud. That's where the security will come and play most of major role in the security aspect. So when it comes to security and see what are the different options which we have here is the option to be enable traceability and automated responses to security events, and we have to focus on the securing your systems and automated security best practices. So we need to follow all these aspects in the security options, and we will these things will be given in the further slide with explanation. There are two aspects here which we have to consider always here is the data which is being there in the cloud, right? Security in the cloud and security of the cloud. If you see the diagram here and the customer data, whereas your platforms, whereas your applications which is being deployed into your cloud, and different identity access management, IAM, which we have seen is one of the surveys, right, which has been given by the AWS, and all your operating systems, networks, and firewall configurations, all the blue colored one which will come and sit into your customer responsible for security in the cloud. Whereas the storage means the data which is being stored into the cloud, right? And all your databases, all your networkings, all your compute, and the regions, the availability zones, and the edge locations. So these are all you'll call it as security of the cloud. AWS is responsible for security of the cloud, right? If I yeah, so this is the major difference between security in the cloud and security of the cloud. And probably we need to understand the different regions, availability zones, and edge locations when we are storing the data. I'll give you a high level understanding of what the regions are, right? If we log into the AWS has different regions like North America, Latin America, Asia Pacific, Middle East, Europe. Everywhere they have different data centers available, right? And the availability zones. The availability zones, let's say for example, in the same country with the specific distance, if you have another data center, which is where the typical all your data, like all your storage, database, network, compute, everything will be available in your global infrastructure, right? In the specific regions. So when you choose, let's say if I'm there in Malaysia and I have the nearby zone is Singapore, right? When I choose any of the cloud in the AWS, I'll go for the Singapore as a region and the availability zones, right? And the edge locations. So there are different edge locations which is available in the specific regions, in the specific availability zones, where actually all my different all my data which is getting resided for end to end. So what are the features which is AWS giving, that we'll talk in further slides. Okay. Okay.
Please, Kishore,
Yes, Patrick.
what is the difference between an edge location and availability the edge location? Can you explain it for me a little bit?
Right. So when it comes to the availability location, so the regions you understood, right? Let's say I'll take it as a Latin America or North America, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And similarly, edge availability zones. So within Latin America or within Singapore, you'll have the availability zones. Within Singapore, if they have data centers in 3 different locations, right? When I wanted to store the data, by selecting the availability region as a Singapore, right? And you have to have one availability zone within that Singapore, right? Uh, which means I think I'm coming to the point. One second. Okay, the availability zones are like a data centers. Okay, the data centers will be part of your regions. For example, in Singapore, if I have 3 availability zones, okay, and I wanted to have the edge locations, which are small data centers. So all combination of a small data centers will become your availability zone. Hope I'm clear here, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I have 3 different small data centers that are hosted in Singapore. That particular 3 edge locations or 2 or 3 edge locations will become your availability zone. That availability zone will be part of your region. So these are all like, this is the superset, this is the subset, and edge locations is a subset of your availability zones. Hope I'm clear here.
Yes, you are clear.
Okay, yeah, great, thank you. Coming to the next slide here, we'll talk about security in the cloud, right? So what are the different 4 areas which are, uh, taken as a consideration for security measures, right? The data protection, which is very, very important for any data which has been hosted into the cloud. And privilege management, we need to know like to whom we have to give the access to it, and depends on the nature of the user who is accessing the data. We need to know like that what is a privilege for, user A will have, user B will have the lesser privileges than user A. All that sections can be handled in the privilege management. And infrastructure protection. So AWS, when you wanted to log in, right? So recently they have come up with the multi-factor authentication, which is you will be logging in your system and you'll have another, multi-factor authentication coming from your mobile, which you need to enter. It's a 2 layers of authentication which you will follow to protect your infrastructure. Okay, that's a great feature given by the AWS. And detective controls. So detective controls, I'll talk in the further slides with an example. Okay, so here we'll talk about how the data protection will be done, and what are the different AWS services which will support those practices to get us the data protection, right? When it comes to the encrypt and manage data, so the data should always be encrypted when you're storing the data into AWS, right? And you manage the data. So when you for these two, for this aspect, you need to have IAM and KMS. These 2 services will help you to encrypt your data and manage the data. Okay, coming to the next layer here, which is taken care by the cloud trail. What it does is perform detailing logging. So whenever any action is being taken care into the cloud, so all the detailed logging will be captured and it will be stored in the cloud trail. So the cloud trail is responsible for logging of all your service, I mean detailed logging services. And coming to the next one, S3. So S3 is the storage area where we can use of resilient storage systems. We can use store the data in this S3 layer. So it is a storage specific service which is given by the AWS. Similarly, S3, what it does, it even does the versioning and lifecycle management. So when you talk about versioning, so like you'll have the different versions of the data which is coming into the cloud, and S3 will automatically takes care of it. What is a version 1.1, what is a 1.2, and you no need to have specifically mentioned the versioning here. I think it will come. I mean, we can get idea of how the auto versioning will be done when we use the particular service and see all the details of it. Okay, and lifecycle management also taken part of this particular service. And coming to the next slide here, the privilege management. So as I mentioned here, there are, when any user wants to get into the cloud systems, so there is a definitely authorized and authenticated users only can, log into the cloud applications to secure all the cloud data which is there in the cloud. So first thing here, what the particular cloud management here does is access control list. So it will have the access control list to authenticate everybody, to authorize everybody. Okay, when it comes to the next one, which is role based access control, here we'll give the authenticated users will be in the AWS, what it does, it understand the nature of the user, and based on the privileges which are being given to the particular user to access few services, the role based authentication will be come into the picture. And the password management, how the password management will take care of any user particular password, how it's been tracked and how it is being stored. We will not have the complete picture of the data which has been password management, which we have in the privilege management. It is like we can even ask users to do the password reset whenever if they wanted to do that. So there will be a super user and there will be a sub user that we'll talk about. The super user, what are the access that your super user will be having it, what are the access which the sub users or the following users will be having it. Okay, coming to the infrastructure protection, we discussed about the different multi-factor authentication, right? So the AWS will give the multi-factor authentication. Once you're logging into your AWS console, there is a way to first of all you have to give your credentials, whether you're logging with your super user or with your user which is IAM user which you have created. Based on that, it will even ask for the one from the mobile system you need to configure when you are creating the user. It will even give you the OTP kind of a password that you need to enter. It's second layer of authentication to get into your services in the console, right? And which is always the MFU thing. And even the VPC system, which enforce boundary protection and monitor points to the ingress and egress. So it even protect all users which are coming to the cloud into the particular system. So it is one of the best feature in terms of getting into the cloud. That is one of the protection area. And even you have the logging, monitoring and alerting. So all these things will be CloudTrail and CloudWatch will these two services in the AWS will give you all this information. Let's say you have done something and you wanted to understand if there is some failure happened in one of the services. You'll go to your CloudWatch and see what's happening in the detail log, what is the failure, when it is occurred, what is the reason for it. All the everything end-to-end details will be there, and you can even take all the details from your log and monitor your services at any point of time, how the services are being run, the health of the particular service. All that systems will be the CloudWatch will give you, and even it even give you the alerts saying if there is any failures which are happening in your cloud environment. All that mechanism is provided by the AWS. Okay. Okay, coming to the next slide here, detective controls.